The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. You're returning, man, November 5th against Shayilan, a Chinese prospect. I believe he's pretty highly touted, right? I think he was part of the UFC Academy out there before, COVID shut everything down. He's a known grappler, but outside of that, man, what is your breakdown of him and his style, his record?
Man, I mean, I feel like, he's fought 3 strikers in the UFC. TJ's got a little more better, well-rounded game than the other two, but he's fought predominantly 3 strikers, and record before that, man, it looked like they just like threw him a bunch of dudes that were making their amateur debut. In my eyes, he's 26-4, and he's fighting guys on there is like two on Tapology be 0-4, 6-20. You know what I mean? Like, and everybody has those build-up fights where you get experience, but it seems like that's what they were doing the whole time for him and just building him up. He'd trickle in one tough fight here and there. But yeah, man, he's a tough, he's got good takedowns. He's a good grappler. Yeah, I mean, pretty, his striking's pretty, he throws hard, pretty basic. Other than that, man, yeah, I love the matchup and I love the fight. So
In the States, you don't really see that, right? You don't really see promotions putting on fights like that where a guy's like 25-2 versus a guy that's like 6-18, right? It's like the commission's there to block that, right?
yeah, and I see, and the commissions are there to approve or just, you have to get everything approved through here. I don't know, how they do it over there, but like it's, you always like when you say you lose a fight, you always want like that middle level build me fight, get back in there, get your feet wet, get a win, but man, I just like if we look at the opponents are just totally different. Like if we look at like experience when they compare, like I see people comparing like our experience where I don't honestly think it's even close. I mean, look at my last 15 opponents compared to, his. I just he's got a couple of tough fights here and there, but yeah, I mean, as far as that, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know unless it's just guys that aren't on on Tapology or SureDog or any of those sites. I don't know. Maybe, and there's no film of them obviously, so I don't know.
It is the Wild West. I'll tell you firsthand, man, from knowing people that went to China to fight in China. Wild West, dude. Like you'll go there and you've been preparing for a guy for 6 weeks, and then when you land in the way in, all of a sudden, oh, he's not here. This guy's gonna fight you now.
Oh,
That
yeah,
has
yeah.
happened many, many times, man, with a lot of guys that fly in there. So yeah, it is the Wild West. You know what I mean? And
Which
like you said, Tapology doesn't have all the records of most of the
which
fighters.
is kind of like, like the old school barroom shows that, the guy that you're supposed to fight didn't show up. Then they pull the drunk guy that had 6 beers and he cuts off his jeans and takes his shirt off and walks in there. That's kind of like the way it was in, 2005 and 2006 here,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it is. It is. It cracks me up, man. And but TJ Brown, he fought him in the
Yep.
previous fight. So James Krause gets another crack at this guy, right? So can you reveal anything to us about what he thinks of your opponent?
Yeah, pretty much what I said. I mean, he's gonna, he likes to wrestle, he likes to grapple, and he'll trade, he'll throw bombs and stuff. But I mean, I just feel like he's good in the departments he's good at, but I feel like them are what I'm good at, and I feel like I'm better. Like I feel like my striking's better, wrestling's better, and my grappling transitions and all that stuff is better. There's positional wise and transitions and like not giving up stuff. I think I feel like I do better about that when it comes to being inside the grappling aspect.
Yeah, he like you're known to go for it, man. You're known to create opportunities for yourself to look for the finish. He has a lot of finishes before the UFC, but
Yep.
all of his wins are decisions. Do you feel like he's changed his style a little bit to where he's more of a safer fighter to kind of like guarantee the win with a decision?
I mean, that could be, or it could be the fact that, maybe the guys he's fighting that he's finishing are just not at that level where they can, fight through the adversity of getting hit, or maybe this guy has no wrestling. He took him down and choked him. We just don't know because there's no proof of it. And yeah, I mean, he's a decision. Even in his fights, you can see that he's kind of like a decision fighter. There when you watch either one of our fights, you can tell the difference of it. But yeah, I mean, he's very calculated in what he does. It seems like, but yeah, I mean,
We'll find out, huh?
yeah, yeah. Ooh, real soon, real soon,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well, before this fight, you had a fight booked with Damon Jackson, which is a phenomenal matchup. You know what I mean? Skill set versus skill set. It was great, but then you sustained a concussion in sparring. How did that actually happen, and what were the symptoms like?
Man, I was back home. We had another baby girl. Probably right. Well, it was not probably May 9th, and so we ended up. I was training back at home for the week, and so we were moving around. I was sparring with one of my guys up there, and we just trade forehead to forehead, and I was kind of moving in, and he was just throwing something, and like his big ass dome, like it put me, kind of like it just kind of rang my bell, and I kind of like was, like what the hell, and then we were always like, we're like and so I went home and like I didn't think nothing of it. I just continued practice doing the thing, and then I had a real bad headache, and then that night I just got really sick. Like it was like I was sick to my stomach and like just everything, and then I went and saw one of the fight doctors at the bare knuckle events, and he told me, yeah, come in tomorrow. We got to get look at it and stuff. And so we did that, and then I got with a concussion specialist, and I had a concussion. They said that like the reason I got sick is your immune system goes down when you get concussed like that, and blah blah blah. So 4 weeks no contact, and that's what pulled me out of the fight. And yeah, man, yeah, I mean it took about 8 weeks. I took 8 weeks pretty slow and got back in there and been training since. So
When you're at the bare knuckle event and the doctor told you that, like, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
well, he just said let's analyze it tomorrow. He's like,
Mhm.
I think you got a concussion and stuff. And for me, I'm just like, man, like I really like the Damon Jackson fight, man. I really enjoy that challenge of a guy that fights similar to me, that has as many fight, and so I got something similar to this, just a little different styles. So yeah, I mean, what do you do? You just, it's the first time in my career that that's really happened to me,
Mhm.
and out of 60 fights, and so it was pretty like it's painful to even like pull out. And it was like one of those things for me. I'm like, all right, well, we're still fighting, like I'll take a couple of days off. I didn't I and obviously that wasn't happening. Doctors, coach, manager, they're like, yeah, no, so
Maybe if this happened to you back in the day, right, when you didn't have those people around you and you didn't have the doctors as well, you probably would end up just continuing to fight, right?
oh
Would have had a
100
bad effect.
100%. Yeah, I mean, earlier pro days for sure. I mean, yeah, yeah, it's definitely would have probably fought, especially certain situations, and you just gotta think about stuff a little more when you got kids rolling around.
Definitely, but like you said, you had the newborn. It sucks to have the concussion. It sucks to pull out the fight. It sucks to sit around and have to recover without doing anything. But you get to be with the baby,
Yeah, and I
right?
definitely was busy the whole freaking time. So
Yeah.
it was a lot more busy at home than it would have been at camp, with
Yeah.
a newborn and stuff. So and yeah, so I mean it happened the way it's supposed to, and the timing, I got a little later on the return than I wanted, but timing's good. Kids are healthy, everything's going well. So
How did your family react to the news? Because you said you never experienced this in 60 fights.
I mean that I had to pull out. It was just pretty much like, yeah, it's for your own good. I mean, I just explained it. I mean, your family. It just sucks when you only fight once. It's been a year almost. So like
Yeah.
that's never happened. I'm used to fighting three to five times on the low end. So yeah, I mean they were just support. They're what do you do? They're supportive. They're like, okay, well, let's go. Jordan was probably pretty relieved, with just having a kid and then having to battle that for 3 weeks by herself would have been pretty terrible. So I'm sure she was more relieved than I was, but it worked out how it was supposed to.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people don't understand like how like family life, you're a father, family life can have a huge effect on a fighter and their mentality, like even in a camp and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If it's good at home, it's usually good in camp, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and it just like I was talking to Jordan today. It's the sacrifices, like when I'm in camp, they're in camp. When
Yeah.
I'm in camp, Jordan's in camp because it's just like back home. She's taking care of our three girls and working, and like she goes from work to taking care of the girls and all that stuff. So she runs her own business and all that. So she definitely feels the effect, of me not being there, and I definitely missing the girls all week and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, man, it's a lot to handle, and respect to you, man. Not many people are in the world are doing that type of thing. Um, how was it getting back into training? Like, how, did you slowly get back into it, or were you just like, oh, Monday I could go in, I'm just gonna go full blast?
No, man. When you know I was slowly working out and getting everything back together. I mean, even with that, like, I mean, I took like 3 weeks. With the baby, I was still kind of working out a little bit, just coaching and being around the mats, and then I was always training after that. Like, I just slowly, gradually, coach and jump in for the rounds and do all that, and then we got kind of like an idea of when we were fighting, and so that was. I mean, that could have been July, August,
Mm.
kind of just started floating around the ideas of we knew we were going to fight at some point. So I knew I had to start ramping it up because I have to be in really good shape before I come back to glory. Cause, it's just a different level of, training partners and all that stuff. So you got to be in some sort of shape when you get back down here and stuff. And I've been down here for, I think this is a week 6 or 7. So.
That must be a interesting dynamic as well. It's like you're gonna go to glory, and the type of training partners that you have to deal with there. So your body has to be at a certain fitness level to get there, and then you could jump right in and feel good about it. Because a lot of it is like having good days, right, on top of having the bad days.
Oh yeah, yeah, I mean you're gonna have both of them, but it's just making sure like if I was sitting around and I was some guys like don't train when they don't have fights coming up or whatever, and so like for me I just stay busy as possible. So like if I would just come right off 4 weeks and came down here and did all the I wouldn't have been able to do the rounds. I wouldn't even have made it through the hour of drilling, just make it through that, and then you're like, fuck, I ain't doing the rounds if you don't have nothing coming up. But yeah, so just gotta make sure you're ready when you get down.
What is your mindset heading into this fight? Is it a little different from your previous couple?
Man, kind of, like for me, it's like I'm just gonna go. Like I'm yet, I keep saying this, but I'm yet to show everybody who I am, like who the well-roundness and roundness of me, the where I can strike, where I can grapple. Like everybody knows I can wrestle, I can grapple and stuff like that. But I wanna just mix it up a little bit better, and it's one of those fights. Whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna fight my ass off. I'm gonna come out with the victory, and how I get it done is just being me, and getting a certain swagger about myself, and coming off 2 losses, just go out there and fucking do the thing.
Do you watch those fights again and kind of nitpick at like certain moments or certain positions that you were in, and you're like, man, that I fucked up there.
Yeah, man. I usually don't, man. I usually go back to I've been in so many, like I know what we discuss it. We watched film, once. I went back to the hotel after both my last fights and I watched the video, and you're just like, I watched it on replay, and it's just like when you watch something like that, like for like 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night, just like pissed off at yourself because like I mean Elkins fight, whatever I was dealing with staff, but like I should have never. It should never ended like that. It should have never, like I should have took my time. It should have been a cruise to victory. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
should just took my time, and with Hall, like don't take him down. I end up knocking him out. You know, and then for my instincts, I took him down. 3 times or whatever it was. So yeah, there's certain things that I didn't show off that I had improved in my previous 2 fight, my first 2 wins in the UFC. So yeah, just get back there and just be smart, just fight smart. That's the goal. Just go in there and fight smart. Hand over the controller, let James do his work, and get out there with the victory.
Yeah, it's like shutting off inside the cage and letting your body just go with the flow, right? Is
Yeah,
that what most fighters are
yeah.
chasing?
Just make sure you go into robotic mode. Do enough put enough hours that your body just shuts off, and your coach is there. You don't have time to react in there anyway. And
Mhm.
so for me, it's about slowing the damn thing down and stop going forward. So not forward so much as just going too fast. Slow everything down. Just bring my 5 minutes, stretch it out a little bit, and then we have victory. So yeah, let's go.
Is there an expectation you have for yourself in this fight?
Nah, man. Yeah. I mean, just go, have fun and be me.
Mhm.
That's that. I feel like I'm one of the best in the world when I do that. I truly do, and I still feel like with all my experience, I'm still yet to show off my potential,
Mhm.
show off where I can be, and just yeah, man. It's just go in there and be me, and don't be so stubborn in some aspects.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's fighters, man. That's the ever-ending battle, right? Because you're a
Yeah.
fighter. Like being stubborn is part of it's like a prerequisite for most of you guys. One last question, man. The UFC sent out this memo to fighters and to managers saying that you guys can't gamble on fights anymore. Even family members can't gamble on fights. Even like training partners can't gamble on fights anymore. And what do you think about that? Like this whole thing?
Man, I just don't understand how it's gonna work. Like, I just don't know, you know what I mean? Like I just don't like no matter like whatever, like I just it's save me money because I'm fucking like you ask most UFC fighters, their parlays are probably trash. You know what I mean? There's probably not very many guys that are just out there killing it because what the problem is like most of us, if we're gonna bet on fights, we're betting with our heart. You might have two that you're like, yeah, hell yeah. But if you're training, if whoever your training partners, and they're fighting, and you're like, man, that guy's good, you're gonna without even question. And that's the thing with that, especially guys like me who's trained a lot of places and with a lot of guys. It's just like, so I mean, long run, you're just saving me money, but but good luck with that. Like that's the
Uh,
thing. Like as far as like how are you gonna even like my brother wants to go put $1,000 on me next fight. Like how's that, how are you gonna stop that? I just don't know. I just don't understand how they'll manage that. But hey, all the power to them. They'll get their way.
You make a good point, man. Fighters do pick fights with emotion because they're like, "Oh, I know that guy. He's cool, man. I train with him. Like, it's hard to pick against him. Like, I'm gonna pick him, and I'm gonna pick him." Most fighters, if you look at their picks, it's usually like who they like as a
Yeah, who
person.
their training partners are, or
Yeah.
whatever. If they like some guy's style, however it works. It's just like,
Mhm.
man, it's not easy picking fights, man. It's really not. I mean, you got underdogs. I mean, how many? It's probably split. Most of the time. I mean, you got 300 plus 300 dogs winning all the time. You think that we're in the same boat?
Yeah. All right, man. November 5th, UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. If you want to know more about the event, go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Derek, thank you so much for the time, man. All the best in the fight.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.